everyone. Hope you're doing well. Joining me today is Frans Smolders. Frans is one of our top experts in time or the workforce management area. He leads our product strategy for our native time solution, which is SAP SuccessFactors time tracking. Hi, Frans. How are you?
Hey, Imran. Happy to be here. All good. Thanks.
Good. So I think most people know this, or at least most people that are listening to this, but we launched a new time product about 2 years ago, and there's been a ton of stuff that have been delivered. So can you tell me a little bit about the strategy for those decisions that we've made over the last few years? How did you gather the feedback and make decisions on what were the important areas for us to focus on from a development standpoint? And then along the way, how did you incorporate the customer feedback?
All right. Yeah. So we had quite a large revision of the strategy around 2.5 years ago, and the reason was, a very loud voice for the customers that we serve is from the customers who come from our on-prem SAP HR Time Management, we're plugged into too many user groups, for example, for feedback. We have very frequent product advisory exchanges with many of those global operating customers. And one area where we found that many of these customers struggled in was, hey, I'm on SAP HR Time Management, and how do I get to SuccessFactors fully, or how do I come to living up to my business case and then decommissioning SAP HR? And we already offered time off and time sheet as a part of Employee Central at the time. So where we were lagging behind, or where basically the customers had most questions, is in the areas, pressing areas for them around, for example, deskless workers or blue collar workers, or more of the complex scenarios, right? So around 2.5 years ago, we took the decision, we're going to rebuild, or we're going to build a successor for on-premise time management as part of SuccessFactors time management. So the use cases that we delivered in on-prem are now also the leading use cases for SuccessFactors time management. And by the way, if I say SuccessFactors time management, then the focus areas are building out time off as part of Employee Central, and then also focusing on building out time tracking, which you called out in the intro, which is kind of an add-on to the timesheet capabilities in Employee Central. Mm-hmm. So that umbrella, let's say, we call SuccessFactors time management, and then it has those components in it.
Good clarification.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so from a use case perspective, those are the leading use cases. However, obviously, right now, technology is much more modern. We can achieve a lot more and cooler things now than we could in our on-prem technology.
Of course, yeah.
And from the very first release that we did with time tracking, I think it's now 3-4 releases old. And we were able to include much awaited for features, right? So things like the ability to connect to clock terminals, right? For people who need to clock in and out. The ability to do time valuations for people who work on night shifts. But also, things like rest rule detection or fatigue management, grace rule rounding. Many features or items that are really common in the areas of deskless workers or blue collar workers. We've been putting into time tracking in the last releases. That also led to the time tracking application now being adopted globally. We have more than 100 customers live.
Nice.
Meanwhile, on it, we have a few million users that are
some big ones too. Some very big customers that are live.
Yeah. So far, the success of time tracking is, I think, exceeding anyone's expectations, and it only expresses the need for offering it, right? So.
Yeah, definitely. You talked a little bit about it and how you can use different technology nowadays, right? And so that's really focusing on those HXM use cases. And like I implemented on-prem time for customers. I actually spent years doing that, and so I saw the power of that technology. But the things we're doing here are a little bit different, right? Because you can do as soon as I submit that time on my phone, I can do an instant time evaluation, evaluate it, and as opposed to having to do it overnight, right? I know another one of those deliverables that gets a lot of interest and questions now, and is related to kind of new technology, especially with people using their own phones and devices rather than having to go necessarily to a terminal. But I know we get questions about like geofencing, right? So can you tell me a little bit about that? I know that's kind of on the roadmap, but yeah.
Yeah, so on the geofencing, so let me first talk a little bit about geofencing, and then I also wanted to talk about this real time aspect, because it's really changing how customers work, employees within customers, and then but also admins and managers.
Yeah.
But so let me start with the geofencing, right? So at the moment, we already have the capability as part of our SuccessFactors mobile app to allow people to clock in and out, and we have extended that capability, that punch clock as we call it, with the option to capture location of the employee when they clock in or out.
Right.
Now, next logical question that we had from customers was, can we also only allow employees to clock in and out when they're near their work location, right, or work locations, right? So
makes sense.
Yeah. And then there are also a few flavors, right? So the first flavor that we want to start with was allowing that employee to only clock in or out when they're within the radius of their work location, and then a next logical thing would be to auto clock in and out people when they are entering sites, right? So I think what the nice thing also about the cloud technology here is that it continuously progresses. We continuously listen to our customers via various sources and influence options. The technology evolves, right? It just helps our customers to stay current, but also helps us to cover the cool use cases.
Yeah, definitely. And you talked about it. You talked a little bit about it. You said how we were listening to customers. I saw the post you did on LinkedIn, and you had a list. I think it was 25. And was it for just the first half 2023 release that were from the customer influence tool?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So sometimes we're asked, what is the purpose, or what is the use of the influence tool? And I understand for customers it is an administrative effort. I mean, to log an influence request or an ID, but also to scroll through to see if others have recorded or administrated good IDs. It's an effort, so I get it, right? But for us, product management. It's really a valuable source of information. So we use it in two ways, basically. One is that we at the beginning of each release, when we start our planning, then we go through all the top voted for influence requests. And we always want to pick out a few of the highest voted ones. But then there are also always a lot of other things that we need to do in a release. And then if we start on new features, then we work on existing features, then we always cross-check it against existing influence requests. So those aren't necessarily the most highest voted ones, but those oftentimes have kind of hidden gems in there.
Of course, yeah.
So then we can also fine tune existing concepts, or we can reach out to the authors of the influence request, or sometimes we reach out to the voters for the influence request to get more input on their reasoning and their use cases, to help us to come to a complete concept, right, before we start the development for it, right? So we use it in those two ways, and for us, for each feature that we work on, it's a valuable tool for us and a valuable source of good information.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think there is quite a bit that came into it, and I know that we actually have quite a lot of significant things for 2023 for time coming too, right? So right now, at the time of this recording, we're kind of in preview already for the first half release, and there's a lot in there. Can you tell me a little bit about what's coming in this release, and then also what's coming later this year? I know the roadmap is you got the disclaimer. It's a possibility it changes, although I will say kudos to you. You guys have been delivering on a lot of the stuff that you kind of said you were working on and doing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, in this release, so in the H1 release, there are a lot of cool things which we're releasing. So as part of time tracking, we are releasing new configuration options to configure rest rules. So for example, in Europe here, we have regulations which say that between every shift, there needs to be 11 hours of uninterrupted rest. And to monitor and to for example raise an alert in case that the uninterrupted rest period is not respected, was something that we needed some specific time valuation enhancements for. So we've included that in the H1 release.
It's a cool one, and I think that's
exactly.
also one that there's not necessarily always laws there, but I also think that some companies might even want to adopt such a thing just for their own internal rules and policies and things like that. So even though it might have been built for a specific region, I think that one could be applicable for companies who just want to put that in place too.
Exactly, but so also here, I mean, right, of all people, best that oftentimes in time management, most things are impacted by collective labor agreements, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
union policies. So there is always in every region of the world a lot of regulations and a lot of policies which are aimed to avoid people from working too much, or that people need to take sufficient rest, and linking this to the influence request and to what I was just talking about. Also here, when we define these features, we then take into account that the configuration of the rules are not only focused on doing these rest rules, for example, or handling the rest rules, but that it can also be used to handle other use cases, right? So in this, to meet the rest rules, and I don't want to go into too much technical detail, but I mean a little bit, I guess is needed here. We have to release another time valuation type, right? And when we were defining that time valuation type, we also looked through influence requests and through other sources of information, and we thought, in many cases, there are also situations where you need to add some sort of a variable into time valuation, right? So, for example, there are use cases where people get 10 minutes at the end of the shift to hand over their work to others, right? Or there are cases where people get 15 minutes to shower, or there are cases where people get 5 minutes because they need to walk from the site entrance to the punch clock, right? So there are many use cases where it's useful to add a specific variable into the time valuation, which people get as kind of an extra if they work. So, when we were defining the REST rules, we also took those things into account, and we came up with a new valuation, which now, allows to cover that REST rule that I talked about, but also those other use cases that I talked about, right? So, in many developments that we do, there are these kind of incremental developments which satisfy many use cases, many different use cases.
That makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah.
So and a few other cool things which we delivered. One is as part of time tracking, the ability to easily copy information from within the timesheet. So we wanted to make it simpler for users to fill out the timesheet in a quick manner, so that you can just simply copy paste within the timesheet from one day to the other, or from 1 week to another week. So that's for sure helping the employee experience in our timesheet, because we understand that filling out the timesheet is not a fun exercise for no one, right? So we want to make it as easy as possible here, and we think that these usability features that we've delivered make a good positive impact there, and at least the customer response that we got first on the validation of the designs, but now that the features are out, is really good in that regard.
Good.
And then one last thing maybe which I can call out, because it's also a very impactful set of features, is many improvements to our public holiday handling, right? So when we started with time off and also timesheet, we started with the assumption 8 years ago, if there is a public holiday, people are not supposed to work. And obviously that assumption is not true anymore with the user groups or the employee groups that we are now also addressing, right? With the blue collars and the deskless workers, because in many industries, if you take retail, hospitality, healthcare, many more, there are situations where people just need to work.
Another on-prem
if there is
case.
A public holiday. Exactly.
Yeah.
So in on-prem, we had, day types, work schedule variants, we had public holiday clauses. So we had to build kind of equivalents to those in SuccessFactors, right? And we started that initiative in the H2 release last year, and now we are nearly rounding those off in the H1 release. So now it is possible for customers to define which employee groups are supposed to work on public holidays and which aren't. And if you're supposed to work on a public holiday, then on that specific day, what is then your specific work schedule? Because it can be a deviating work schedule from your normal work schedules. It is then also possible that you take a day off on that public holiday, because it's just a normal working day for you. So all that handling now is in the application, and it's really addressing those employee groups that are supposed to work during public holidays. So now I think we're growing into an application which is ready for customers to really convert in full from their on-prem into the SuccessFactors Time Management.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's a lot, and that's only a couple things. I know we probably need to get into a full hour thing to go through the full release, but that's a lot in just the first release. Plus, we talked about the 25 influence requests that are also covered. I mean, so there's quite a bit there. What about later this year?
Yeah, there are a lot of cool things coming. I mean, geofencing we talked about. Another big development topic is a tighter integration between time management and payroll. So obviously in payroll, everything is driven by the pay calendar.
Yep.
And in time management, we now need to come to a closer alignment to that, right? So that means that in line with the payroll calendar, or a few days before you want to run payroll, you need to make sure that all timesheets are submitted, and especially, for example, in the US, you also need to make sure that everything is approved. So that can mean that you want to auto approve all timesheets at a given point in time related to that pay calendar. You then also, if it's submitted and approved, in many cases want to avoid that employees make any retro changes or change timesheets of already closed payroll periods. So all that handling will we're working on now, and it is planned to be part of the H2 release. And we're now also starting with a lot of development work for things which are crossing the year but are impactful. So kind of a sneak peek or an outlook.
Nice.
We're working on a monthly timesheet UI. So at the moment, our timesheet in SuccessFactors is a weekly timesheet, but also there we know that we need to accommodate more flexible periods, right? So for example, a month. So that's also a topic which we now have in customer validation, and we want to. We're now developing it, and we're focusing on delivering that, or planning to deliver that in the H1 release of next year. Another big one is mass approval cockpit for managers. Oh, wow. So that as a manager you can have like a good view across your team, who has submitted the timesheet, who hasn't submitted the timesheet. For the ones who have submitted, what are specific anomalies in there, for example, right? So that the system does a pre-validation, and as a manager, you can then easily, assess what needs your attention and what doesn't. So that's a big one, and then two others where I'm really happy that we're now actively starting to work on is development work jointly with other parts of our SAP business. So CATS, or cross-application timesheet, was always a big like a big topic for especially the on-prem customer base again. And also there we're starting the development work now, or we're doing the development work, so that customers who use the S4 timesheet can then stay using that timesheet as a UI, but then have all the SuccessFactors processes integrated, right? So that means that first of all, the timesheet in the S4 application will then be filled with the SuccessFactors, let's say, target hours, right? And the target hours are normally the work schedule, or driven by the work schedule in SuccessFactors, but is impacted by absences, public holidays, so that those target hours, or that availability of the employee, will then be filled out in the timesheet, and then the employee can fill out that timesheet, and then as soon as they are filling out the timesheet, we can run a simulation in the real-time time valuation that we have, so that the user is also helped with proactive alerts, so that they can fill out the timesheet according to both the, let's say, the expectations on the operations side in ERP, but also on the HR side. And as soon as they submit the timesheet and it gets approved, then the information flows into SuccessFactors, so that we can run time valuation over it, and then later on push that information into payroll. So also those integration scenarios we are now working on, and we plan to deliver that, let's say, end-to-end scenario in our 2024 releases with the S4 timesheets.
Yeah, that's super
exciting.
Last thing, yeah. Go ahead.
And then the last thing, yeah. Sorry, there's just too much to talk about. And then the last thing is also for shift planning. We're now also starting to come up with SAP-driven shift planning approaches. So shift planning is not really an HR scenario normally, right? Because it's more driven and determined by operations usually. And as SAP, we have in quite a few areas also shift planning like processes. So for example, in S4 resource management, we have the ability to schedule consultants. In digital manufacturing, we have like a real shift planning. We now start to define scenarios so that we can come to end-to-end shift planning scenarios with those applications, right? And especially with digital manufacturing, we now already have a working integration to supply that employee availability, so that the shift planner can then start their shift plan. We also have a skills and qualifications service, so that the shift planner in digital manufacturing can then only schedule the best skilled people on the shift. And we're now also discussing scenarios where at the end of the shift plan, so when the plan becomes reality, that we can then also feed or receive back within SuccessFactors the outcomes of a shift plan, so that people can get paid according to the shifts that they work on, right? So it's overall really exciting stuff within SuccessFactors. Yeah, within what we're doing in our time management, but also with the surrounding more business oriented or ERP oriented processes. Yeah, so it's cool stuff.
Across the enterprise too. I think that's definitely one that's going to be music to a lot of people's ears, right? Especially with SAP and what we did on premise, right? That's one of the things that constantly came up, right? Every time we get into a conversation, people would ask about, well, what about CATs, right? What about my cross application timesheet? Because I do all these different things already today. And from my standpoint, like the design actually makes a lot of sense, where you can use the S4 timesheet and then like a lot of the work already happens kind of behind the scene, right? Where that's automatically sent over to HR, time evaluation happens, and like the customer doesn't have to have multiple timesheets for that, right? So from an experience standpoint, that made a lot of sense.
Exactly, and to improve the experience, we're now also working on a new UI with our S4 timesheet to not only have these integrated scenarios, but then also have the integrated scenarios in a user experience, which also looks seamless, across S4 and SuccessFactors. So that's on top, I think, really nice. And from an implementation standpoint, what I think is also appreciated by customers is that they can have the same time valuation for users who use the S4 timesheet, as well as users who potentially use the SuccessFactors timesheet, right? Because I mean,
right.
Mostly in companies, you have employees who record time for when they work, right? More of the HR use case, but also what they work on, especially indeed for billing and for other more of the financial and the plant maintenance use cases. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're definitely going to have some people that would natively just be able to, like the only thing I really do is request time off or exception handling, and then they would be able to use the SuccessFactors timesheet. But if I'm in professional services and, I have to bill my customer, but I'll also maybe enter my own time, then I can use that S4 timesheet.
Exactly. So the main goal here is that one employee has one timesheet, right? Just one timesheet. And and everything. And if you use the S4 timesheet, then everything under the hood is just driven by the integrations that we provide.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's a huge one. It's exciting to hear about the development and also the time frame, right? You mentioned that like some of those aspects will be delivered later this year, and then we're aligning with the S4 release for next year, 2024, which is super cool. I know. Yeah. About a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago, you wrote a blog about like how SuccessFactors time management compares to on-prem time, right? And I know we've started talking about that, and a lot of the use cases we're building are from that. And the funny thing is, back then you made a pretty solid argument about how a lot of these customers can move from on-prem time. And since then, I mean, clearly from just this conversation we've had, we've delivered a lot more on top of that, right? Both from a parity standpoint as well as a legitimate user experience and new technology standpoint. Are you hearing from more on-prem customers and seeing more of them convert to SuccessFactors?
Yes. I mean, we have daily customer meetings. Meanwhile, and what I sensed in those meetings is that like maybe 2 years ago when we launched time tracking, customers were asking themselves, should I or but now it is more a question like, when can we start, and what is the right way to start, right? Do we want to go at it big bang, or do we want to go at it, which in most cases is not what customers doing? I see many customers at the moment starting with pilots or going at it country by country, or use case or employee group by employee group. I mean, there are various ways. Every customer there is unique in also in their own decision making. But many of our customers also did not have all their countries or all their operations on SAP HR Time Management, right? I mean, in many cases, they have SAP HR Time Management in their bigger countries, where they also run their payroll, but in some others they have outsourced it. So what I now discuss with many customers is how can we come to the best roadmap, looking at what SuccessFactors Time Management offers meanwhile, but also what the customer can, what fits in their agenda, right? Where they do they have the most pressing need, and then how can we come to a rollout plan, right? So that's what is on customers' mind at the moment, and that's not only I think clear by just the amount of time tracking customers we have meanwhile, but I mean, having time tracking customers is one, but also having certified consultants is a big aspect. So we launched a certification to make sure that those implementations which get done also get done in the right in the right way, right? Because I mean, you know very well that time management is not a simple domain, in essence, right? So there's a lot of country variations, and there's a lot of things that you have to take into account.
High visibility in an org, right? Like in terms of like rolling that out, it touches a lot of people, and like it's obviously feeding payroll, so the importance of getting that right too.
Exactly. Plus, it's always the number one used self-service, right? And very often, yes. I mean, if customers are starting with new technology, they want to have cool new
impactful
things to share, impactful things to share, especially or exactly. And then time management is a good use case to.
High impact, because I don't move often. I don't move often. I don't change my bank account often. But like even if I don't actively enter time to get paid, I still request time off quite often. But if I'm actually entering my time to get paid, that means it's a weekly activity that I have to do, and so huge impact, especially if you can get to more of a automation standpoint, like we've talked about. So that's definitely relevant.
Yeah, what I find cool in that regard is we're also rolling this out internally ourselves, and we have a pretty like a vocal internal audience, right? Because everyone has high expectations when it's about new technology. What I am pretty proud of is that the countries where we have rolled out time off and time tracking in, meanwhile, those two self-services have the highest NPS, the highest Net Promoter Score of all HR processes that we offer, and we offer a lot of services internally, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so it's plus we know that no one likes to fill out the timesheet, so it is with some degree of pride we can say that we're doing things in a fashion which is appreciated by employees.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I've taken up quite a bit of your time, Frans. I really appreciate all of the details you've given. One last question. And you started answering it a little bit, but like if someone wants to learn more on this, I know we have like Volker's blogs and Venkat's blogs and some of those things, but what are some other recommendations you might have where people can learn more about this?
So I think you named a few. There is a book in the works also. But I mean, the one of the so it depends a little bit on the level of information that you need, right? But if you're a partner or if you're a consultant, then I would highly recommend the SAP SuccessFactors Time Management course, right? So it's the code is THR94. And it is a 4-day course that you can take on understanding how to implement time off, time sheet, time tracking, and even the integrations into payroll.
Yep.
So that there's also a certification on that one, as I mentioned. That I think is the best way to get detailed information, right? Because you get hands-on experience on on what you can do and what can be achieved. Then there are also who have, for example, who offer clock in, clock out tooling or batch readers or such.
Oh, okay.
And for those, we have a certification process now. So also that you can find on our SAP.com website on how you can get a certification. So we have a few partners now being certified globally. So that is also an option. So it's well documented. And apart from that, there is the implementation and other relevant material on help.digi.com. Yeah, exactly.
All right, good. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that SAP Press book. I know Venkat has been working on that, and I think it's slated for a June release, so right around the corner. Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks a lot for joining me today, Frans. Really appreciate all of your insight. This was really, really helpful, and I think people will get a lot out of it. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.